Welcome to Torn, the only podcast committed to exposing the truth about the child welfare system and its devastating impact on families of color, told from the perspective of your hosts, Sonia Johnson and Classie Colinet, two defense attorneys who have over 15 years of experience working in the child welfare system.
Fam, I call everyone fam because we are in this thing called life together in some way, shape, or form. Welcome to Torn. This is a podcast focused on helping families as well as helping advocates in the system, regardless of what your role is, whether you work for the Child Welfare Agency, whether you are working on behalf of parents and families, whether you are working on behalf of a local nonprofit that is assisting families. We want to help support you. We want to help uncover the truths behind the child welfare system that we have discovered. And we also want you to leave each of these episodes with information about how you can support families if you are an advocate in the system, and how you can empower yourself if you are a family member, a parent, a caregiver involved in this system. Please stay tuned. This is going to be, I hope you think it's going to be great. I know for a fact that you will walk away with information as well as new tips that you can put in your toolbox and an understanding as to how you can empower yourself, as well as how you can empower families involved in the child welfare system. So today I have the great fortune and the pleasure of introducing my sister in the law, Sonia Johnson, who is my co-host for Torn. We are here and we are so very happy to be here. My name is Classie Colinet. And Sonia, I want you to say hello to all of our listeners, our fam. Say hello to the fam. Tell them how you got involved in the child welfare system, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you, Classie. Classie, before I go into how I got involved in the child welfare system, let me just say this about my sister, Classie Colinet. Classie Colinet is a fierce, do you hear me? Fierce advocate for families. I have had the privilege of knowing Classie for about 6, maybe 7 years now. I've seen her in the courtroom. We've been on the same side of the verses. And let me tell you, I'm happiest when we are on the same side of the verses, because I do not like when we are opposed to each other in the few opportunities that we've had. We were adversaries to one another, but she is a fierce family advocate. And I've learned so much from my sister. We have been talking for a long time about this podcast. And we are just excited that we have the opportunity to launch it today. So why did we start this podcast? We started this podcast because we were tired of seeing Black and brown families torn apart by the child welfare system. And as women of color, we felt that we had to do something about the devastation that is being forged against families of color. And so we hope that you will tune in and join us for this podcast as we share the insights that we have gained over our years of experience in the welfare system.
Sonia, you hit it right on the nail. We were tired of watching families that look like us, families that look like our families, and families that are also brown, right? Because I know you and myself were both Black women, but we also have watched brown families, and that encapsulates a lot of different racial and ethnic backgrounds. But we've watched brown and Black families go through devastating devastating and experienced devastating consequences in this child welfare system. And Sonia, you and I, we really wanted to start this podcast because we wanted to bring to light the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis. We also just wanted to give voice to families who are often voiceless when they come into a courtroom focused on a child welfare case. And we also wanted to let advocates know, regardless of what their position is, we wanted to tell them and give them some suggestions about what they could do to help families as opposed to hurting families. And Sonia, you and myself, we've been doing this long enough to know that there are some folks that are working in the system that do want to help. And sometimes they really think that they are helping. And sometimes they are, and many times they are not. So we really wanted to do this podcast to bring to light many of the issues that we've seen, but also to help transform the child welfare system. We know that it's a system that we have to work in every day, but if we can do our part to help transform it in some way, we want to do that. And this podcast really is the way that we do that. So, Sonia, let's talk a little bit about why we don't like the term child protection system.